Hello and welcome to another episode of Lucky the Story. We have a very special guest today for whom I had an opportunity to meet him since 2023 fall. And I very well remember for the very first time when I met him on the orientation when my son, older one, Akam, was trying to get into the private school, and we were going from one place to another to try to see which is the best school for him. And I remember during the open house, the way he was approaching and the energy and the vibe that he had, we knew that this is a good place. So we have an amazing guest, a principal, Cipriano. Welcome to our show, Lucky the Stories.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Um, you know, Let me tell a little story before we start into this, because this episode is going to be really good for people who wants to understand or who are in the process of trying to see uh, if they want to transition from a public school to a private school, because it's a very hard decision for any parents to make that, right? But before I do that, I want to share a little story, and I may have shared this in the past. I don't know if you recall. So my mom was here 2 years ago, and she comes from a teacher background. She was a teacher in her young days, and we were going through places from one place to another. This was our first place, Notre Dame, and my mom was sitting, and you were so energetic the way you were presenting it. And my mom doesn't understand English in the American English. So she said, and she was looking. So when we went back in the car, I said, "What do you think?" She said, "I liked everything about this." But then we went to Hopkins following week, and then we went to Chode, and we went to all other places, and she equally liked it. So now the question was, how do we pick which is the right choice? We were not able to make that choice. So my mom said, "You know what? My heart tells me that that principal is amazing. The energy, the vibe, something about that place. I think you should send Akam there." Believe it or not, we didn't do any research, and that was it. And
Wow.
we made that decision. So sometimes
That's a great story.
yeah,
Love
sometimes
it.
the gut feeling and when you
Yeah.
have an elderly person, and then fast forward, we got a
Wasn't she at the house when I delivered
exactly. I was coming to that. I was
Yeah.
going to tell you that. So when you came and you delivered, you got into the program, and she was so happy, and she went home. She told everybody, and I was telling you back of the camera that in India it's different when you talk about principals. You said, "Can you believe this? A principal came home and then gave an offer letter like you. This is an amazing." Anyway, so now we are in the process for the thing. But we've been trying to get on the podcast for a long time. You have so many other commitments, we couldn't make it. So I want to start with this question to you. And I was doing a little bit of I don't think I have a lot of online your history, but I do know that you were a teacher at Notre Dame. And then you were also a student. No, not a student at Notre Dame.
I didn't go to
You
Notre Dame.
didn't go, right? But a student. But then you a teacher, and then within 2 years you became a principal.
No, this is my 28th year at Notre Dame,
Okay.
and I've been principal for 16.
16. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were a teacher as.
I taught English and social studies for many years.
Okay.
And then in the true spirit of Catholic schools, I had a variety of roles. I was director of admission for several years. I was the athletic director for a year. I was assistant principal for 4 years, and now 16 years.
16 years as a principal. So being in this role, you have seen a lot of growth. And the most of the recent one is that Sacred Heart took over Notre Dame. How do you see the transition, like what you were 16 years ago, a total of more than 2 to 3 decades within this? But what has been the most drastic change over the period of 3 decades?
You're making me feel old, 3 decades, but that's the reality. It is approaching 30 years, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
The world of education has changed so much, even just in the past 5 years on the other side of COVID. Education has continued to evolve. The needs of students have changed, and it's our responsibility as educators to meet the students where they are, and that's a big change for especially some veteran educators who have been around for a while. If we take Notre Dame specifically, we certainly have been on almost this roller coaster ride. When I took over at ND as principal, our enrollment was in the 300s. We were about 380 students back in 2010, and we've worked really hard to get where we are today. We have 530 students this year, which is absolutely awesome, and we're seeing this growth year after year. And there's such great interest for Notre Dame for prospective students. But this, what you referenced, the partnership with Sacred Heart has been absolutely wonderful. Sacred Heart has brought so many resources to the table for both our students and our faculty. It's really dynamic. We just had our AP Bio classes. We're just over in the Sacred Heart labs doing research with Sacred Heart professors. I mean, where else are you going to find an experience and an opportunity like that? The chess club, the Sacred Heart Chess Club, comes over and mentors our students.
There was an event last week.
There was, and we had 4 students actually competing in that event for the first time. Yes, there was a chess tournament here at Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
The new program, we're able to offer a study abroad program next fall for students on Sacred Heart's campus in Dingle in Ireland. Yeah, and again, just a really dynamic and a unique opportunity for students at the high school level. And the university has been behind everything, so supportive, I should say, of every idea and every advance that we've tried to make over the past 18 months. The university really wants to see the high school be successful, and they really want to see us move forward. So it's to go back to what you started with, the world of education has evolved, and Notre Dame has evolved over my 30 years there, almost 30 years there. But we've seen a really big evolution just in the past 18 months because of our new affiliation with Sacred Heart.
Thank you. I want to ask one thing about, and I heard this in your open house, where you mentioned that next year the goal is to increase by 3% student run rate.
We are looking to, yes, our goal is by 2030 to have 600 students.
600, right? Mm-hmm. Is that something, when you talk about the private school, is there a pressure as a principal that there is a management saying that we need you to target, this is like a target?
The 600 number is mine. That's my own goal. That did not come from the university. The university wants a balanced budget every year, right? So they want to make sure that our revenue is taking care of our expenses. That's the university's, and I'm happy to say that's what we're doing. So my goal is what I called Notre Dame 2030. To get to 600 students. And that came simply from me, and I presented it to our board. I presented it to the university. So that's our growth. And that's really what I think. I look at that number 600 is really an optimal number where we can offer additional programs. We could offer additional opportunities for our kids and for our faculty. But it's I don't say it's like Goldilocks. It's not too big and it's not too small. It's really where we feel would be a really good number for our student
But
body.
does it become a pressure?
Well,
as a private school, as a principal, you have to meet that goal. Like,
yeah, I think in the world of private schools, especially in the world of Catholic schools, in the Northeast, we've seen so many Catholic schools close. In Connecticut, we've seen Catholic high schools close in the past decade. So there is that pressure because, I mean, it's my own pressure that I want to make sure that I'm successful and our school is successful because that means our kids are successful. So it's important to make sure that we're hitting our enrollment goals every year, that we're able to keep tuition manageable and have tuition increase as small as possible for our families because we want to make education affordable to as many students as possible. So there is some pressure there, absolutely. When the acceptance letters go out and then the deposits are coming in, that's something that we keep close tabs on. I'll get a report every day as to where our numbers are because we want to make sure that we're hitting our numbers and we're able to keep heading in the great direction that the school's heading right now.
But with the Sacred Heart coming into play, would that give you a little breathing space because you have a bigger budget on top of you?
Sacred Heart is bringing resources to the table, yet it's still the revenue that we generate that maintains the operations of the school. So all the renovations that the university did this summer, that's outside of our budget. The university took care of those renovations to the building. But if there's sometimes this perception, even with some of our alumni, that when we reach out and ask for support from our alum, some folks say, well, you don't need us now, you have the university. Well, we do have the university, and the university is making that AP Bio experience possible for the kids, and the chess program and the Dingle experience, making all of that possible for our kids. But on the financial side, we still need to balance our budget with the revenue that we're bringing in, whether that's from tuition dollars or whether that's from our fundraising events. The university is not subsidizing the budget. They're bringing, again, I couldn't be doing what we're doing right now without the university, but we're expected to generate our revenue and balance our budget. Yep.
Thank you. So let's just take a, I want to go back and I want to talk. I'm going to talk as a parent. So I have my son, younger one. The older one is already going to private school, Notre Dame in Fairfield, from your principal. Um, as a parent, there is always a challenge for to make the right decision. And you always want to make sure that you're giving the best to your kid. We don't know until the outcome is there. That's the reality of it. Like you want to do the best for your kid and you give them the best to the best of your ability until it's too late to fix it, to go back and say, I wish I could have done this, right? In that dilemma, what are some of the things that parents should look for when they're looking for to make that decision that, okay, is this private school better or a public school better? Now I'll give you an example from one of the biggest conversation in our, I'm from Indian origin, as you know, in an Indian community. I cannot speak for others, but I can speak for an Indian community. When we are meeting, 9 out of 10 times the question is public school better or a private school better? There will be group of people living in a better community where they have a better school system. They will say, oh, well, public is better because, it gives you the diversity experience that you get your kid to into the Ivy Leagues and this and that. There is all fractional things. But there are people who thinks that private school does a better justice because you have a small group of people. If you have to talk in that Indian community in a public setting, how would you tell a person who's having a private, debating that private is better, and the person who's saying public is better? How would you justify that?
I think what's really important is for the student to experience the setting. We encourage all of our prospective students to come and spend a day at Notre Dame to get a feel for the community. And when I look at Notre Dame, I look at our relatively small size. So if we look at 530 kids versus some of the area public schools that have 1,500 or 2,000. You've got the smaller environment where your teachers are going to know who you are, the administration's going to know who you are. You're not just a number, right, amongst this really big population. So when you shadow, you get a feel for that. And families need to come like you have done and come to open house and learn more about the school. And I feel that we do a really great job of providing unique opportunities for our kids. So we obviously have the Sacred Heart Partnership, which we already alluded to. Our graduates can go to the university at a 50% discount, which is the only high school that could offer that. So we've got our affiliation with Sacred Heart. We've got our new International Baccalaureate program, where, again, only 10 high schools in Connecticut can offer that IB diploma program, and we're the only private school in Fairfield County that can do that. And we look at IB as preparing students to be global learners. And in the world that we're in today, you need those skills. And IB is one of the best indicators of college success, even beyond the SAT scores and your transcript. IB is wonderful. So in a private school setting like Notre Dame, we could offer that IB program.
I'm sorry, for the viewers, what is IB?
IB is the International Baccalaureate program. So
Okay.
it is a program that started in Europe in the 1960s. It's offered in 5,000 schools around the world. It's a rigorous application process to be approved by IB, but I sort of refer to them as like AP classes on steroids. They're really intense classes, and they're 2-year. Most of them are 2-year courses. You take them junior and senior year. There's an exam at the end, just like AP. Colleges will award you credit for the successful completion of these IB courses, but they're taught in a way with a curriculum that teaches kids how to think and teaches kids life skills that they need to be those successful global learners. So a private school like Notre Dame, we can offer IB.
And you said this is the only private school within the Fairfield.
And we're the only private school in Fairfield County that offers the IB
Oh,
program.
I
Yep.
see.
And then you have our service requirement, our campus ministry program, some of the clubs that we offer. You can't find those in the public school setting. So again, we look at our ability to educate the whole student, and being in a private setting, and specifically in our experience in that Catholic school setting, gives us an opportunity to do that. So I think that helps to make the difference.
And then, I want to go back to the point that you mentioned about the settings in the way it is. So I remember I was talking to one of my friend whose kid goes to one of the private schools, and they're older to my kids. When I was talking to him, he said that there is an advantage of public school and there is an advantage of private school. And he brought a perspective. He said that a kid going to a public school in a broader space where you are actually having kids from all line. There are kids who are in this status, there are kids here, they have their things. So your kid's going to be more diversified when he's out in the world after the school. But in the private school, you are in a cocoon in a way that you are structured, you're protected, and you're only seeing the good side of everything. Is that one of the point that as a parents should consider when they're making that decision?
I think it's probably the private schools. Private school setting is going to differ school to school. You mentioned some other schools earlier when you were doing your search for ACOM.
Yes.
Notre Dame is very different than some of those other schools that you mentioned, just in terms of some of those schools have been around for a lot longer than we have. Their tuition is significantly more than ours. They have different, some of them are boarding schools. They're just a different environment than Notre Dame is. Obviously, very prestigious schools on that list. So in that sense, I feel like Notre Dame offers beautiful diversity that not every school can offer, even on the public school setting. That our student body is diverse and unique, both in their ethnicity, but in their socioeconomic background, their geographic areas that they come from. So I can only speak from the Notre Dame perspective because, as we just said, I'm getting old and I've been around a long time at Notre Dame, going on 30 years. But that's one of the things that I'm most proud of at ND is that we've maintained this beautiful diversity that's representative of the real world. And when you walk the halls at school, it's what the real world looks like. So I'm sure there are some private schools that you are more in that cocoon, and it's a very genetic approach. Like it's very similar, but I can only speak from Notre Dame. It's a beautiful diversity.
It is a diverse, I can definitely say, and I have experienced this through my open house when we went to other schools. I saw the kids around. Um, I want to touch on when you mentioned about the other schools, right? And this is something we were talking. So there are two-step of process. One is you're trying to identify if you want your kid to go from a public to private, and you made that decision, okay, it's a private. There are so many private schools out there. Of course, the money is the bigger factor. And then thereafter, so many things comes in. Why is that the private school cost is different from school to school? Why is that Notre Dame falls into X, Hopkins or Choate and other schools have a different, like, what is the criteria? How do they define that?
It's a good question. I know from our perspective, our goal is to always make sure our tuition increase is somewhere in the
2 to 3%.
Yeah, exactly, right around that 3% number, and to keep it manageable for families. You look at a school like a Choate, where they have boarding options, they have a much bigger dining option than our lunch program at Notre Dame. They have development offices, so offices that are out raising money. They raise significant amounts of money, but we have an advancement office of 4 people. They probably have an advancement office of 40 people. So you just have a much larger operation at some of those private schools, especially behind the scenes, whether it's in the advancement or the marketing offices, even in the administration. You have more people that are supporting the operations of the school. So with that, you have more staff, and oftentimes the staff is your biggest budget driver. From our perspective, 70% of our budget is salary and benefits, and that's like that at most schools, public and private. Your biggest piece
Operation
of the pie,
is
it's going to be your employees. So that's these other private schools, and people pay, so they're going to be able people will pay those big bucks, which is really like almost a college tuition.
I cannot
some
even
ways.
comprehend how people do it, but they do it. I have a friend of mine with he actually sends his daughter to Hopkins, and Hopkins cost is very high, right? But then he made a comment. He said that the Hopkins is associated to Yale. Do you think people also make a decision strategically to pay upfront X amount because they know this is the path to the Ivy League? Is that also somewhere a true statement?
I think I don't think going to a private school or a public school is a guarantee of your next step, right?
Okay.
The student needs to work hard, needs to be involved. I always tell our kids, you're going to get out of high school what you put into it. So the students who are on that path and want to go to an Ivy League school, those students really, they need to really work hard for 4 years. And I think that if you work really hard and you take those most challenging classes and you're involved in your community and you're serving others and you're giving back and you're that total package, right? Because those Ivy League schools can be super, super, super selective when they're making their admissions decisions. So I do think that a student who works hard, those doors can open up for them. So I don't think saying, all right, I'm going to go to a CHOAT and that's going to open the door for me to the next level automatically. The student at CHOAT still needs to work hard to be able to hopefully open that door for them where they want to go.
So what is that the kids, so let's say I'm making up an assumptional thought process. I have two kids, one goes to public, one goes to private. When they both come out, what is the differentiation they would see academically and from their personal growth?
Yeah,
Irrespective of Notre Dame, in
Yeah.
general, as a private versus public.
I think it's a lot is dependent upon the student experience and what they are committed to doing while they are in high school. Obviously, I'm biased, and I think the private school setting offers really some unique opportunities, like we talked about earlier. But there are also, as I've said publicly at open houses, there's good public schools around us as well. So it really gives people options when they're looking at their schools, and you've got to make the best decision for your own family. And that's why we say, come and spend the day, come see us, come learn more about us, and see what we can offer you. So a student who's going to be challenged and work hard, whether they're at private school or public school, there's going to be good outcomes for them. And I truly believe that. And we were talking before, my oldest son is about to graduate from public school this year, and he has had a successful high school experience. He has worked hard. He's taken some AP courses. He's been a 3-sport athlete, and he's really had a positive high school experience. And then my younger son is in classes with Acom at Notre Dame, and he too works really hard and is playing 3 sports and is involved in a lot of activities, and he's having a positive high school experience as well. So I really think it's that it's the student experience, and honestly, it's the support that parents are giving and the sort of the expectations that parents are part of that process, and they help to guide their sons and daughters on that journey. And good things await when all that comes together positively, and when students surround themselves with good people and they're committed to their own success, good things come.
I'm going to ask this question completely tangent from, not as a principal. I'm going to ask you as a father, and you can completely say, I don't want to answer this. Do you feel as a father that you have two kids, one is in a public and one is in a private? Does the guilt trip comes to you that, okay, I was able to give my younger one a private and my older one in a public? Does it even cross your mind?
No, it doesn't, because he picked that. We let him decide.
Okay.
He very well could have come to Notre Dame as well. Yeah, no, that option was certainly on the table.
Okay.
Yeah. He decided he didn't want to go to school where dad was principal and mom teaches.
So I see.
And he's at the high school that I went to. I went to public high school.
Where?
Many years ago. Watertown.
Watertown.
High.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's doing very well there. So that was a good fit for him. And he had gone to Catholic school from pre-K through 8th grade, and he wanted to try public school on it. So there is no guilt, because we let him make that decision.
I want to ask you this question about the safety about the public versus private. Irrespective of Notre Dame, any private school, do you think that as a parent, there is a sense of security that in today's current world, in the public school, you have access to so many things without naming it, right? Mm-hmm. Drugs or whatever. Mm-hmm. Do you think there is a little bit of a sense of security when it comes to a private school?
Yeah, I do. And I sort of sense it myself in like our Notre Dame community. Yeah, it's that smaller environment, right? And you have there's definitely more structure in a private school. And I think that smaller community and that structure leads to security and that safety that comes
And
along.
I will tell you that me and my wife, when we were talking, this was a forefront. We wanted to make sure that, they get this security. And I think that was one of the factor that we decided that, we want to send to the private. Um, when we talk about the private, do you, from your perspective as a principal, because you've been for 16 years, right? Do you experience where parents also think that in today's world, it has also become more like a status thing? Or it's not even a case? And I'll tell you why I say this.
Please.
I was talking to one of my friends. I said, I want to ask this question. He said, no, Lucky, this is not a right question to ask. I said, why? You know what he told me? You know why he gave me that response? He said, because you are thinking it from a first immigrant who have just become wealthier in his term, like, from a point of, and you are trying to showcase that, okay, I made it and I'm going to send my kids to private. Do you think that is also the case when people are making that decision?
I'm sure that factors into
That factors in?
to some folks. You, for example.
I have a different reason.
Okay, all right.
I have a different. I don't think it was more for us, for more because we wanted to give our kids a sense of security. That was the forefront of it. Money, I mean, we could have worked hard. I mean, it's not like it's, but it's all about security and giving them the right platform and giving that sense of community. And public is, it's great. I mean, he thrived in the public school too, but I don't know if it would have been the same case throughout.
Right.
Like Notre Dame offers, where we decided because of Oxford University that you, and now you have in Ireland, right? Those were the things that we were understanding to make that decision. So it wasn't like just the status, but I'm just thinking that when I am looking around, people do make that kind of
course,
statements that, oh, my son goes to private.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I'm sure there's a piece of that. I'd like to think that beyond that, there's a lot that goes into that decision, right? You just mentioned a couple factors that went into your decision to pick Notre Dame. Because again, private schools can offer some differences, and we've got that structure, and we have a different feel than you might find at a public school.
Do you guys make that kind of at the end of the admission process? Do you have some sort of a questionnaire that speaks about what was the decision for you to come from public to private?
Yeah, Karen in our admissions office has started to do that, to reach out to folks and find, why did you pick Notre Dame? And same thing, she'll ask families, why did you pick another school versus
I'm
ND?
thinking more or less like public to private. Like, what was the criteria for them to pick?
Yeah.
Does that run through that process?
That's I'm sure if she was sitting here, she probably could
So
give
grab
us
one
some
more.
actual examples of that. But yeah, it is. We have seen more students. Our numbers have almost gone above the 50% mark for students who are coming to us from public school versus coming straight out of the Catholic schools and continuing at Notre Dame. So to your point there are a good number of families that are making that shift for high school from public to the private setting.
School, right?
Yep.
I want to shift a question to about the curriculum. And I will give you an example. So my older one, when he came to private to Notre Dame, in the first week, I remember I was talking to you that, he was so happy in the English. Like he said that, Dad, this was the best class I have ever been. He has never said this in a public school. Do you as a principal have to go through the curriculum? And how often do you have to go? And does it have to be aligned with the state curriculum? Or you have a freedom of choosing how you want to choose your curriculum?
We do have the freedom. We're not bound to any of the state standards that are out there. But each of our courses does have its own curriculum map that teachers every several years will go through and update. So it's a guiding document, but one of the beauties of the private school is that our teachers do have a little bit of flexibility to put their own touch on each of those courses. So for instance, in Akam's English class last year, his teacher was able to pick some of the novels that they would read during the year, as opposed to a curriculum that says you need to read this book, and this book. There's some guiding recommendations in our curriculum, but teachers have a little bit of flexibility on that end. So it gives them a little bit ability to bring their own creativity and their own touch and spin to the course.
And do you also compare it against the other private school and see where you stand from a curriculum perspective?
That's a good question. I can't remember. I haven't done that. I haven't pulled a curriculum up or gone to another school's website to see specifically what they are offering. But that would certainly be a good project for somebody on our end, just to see sort of where we stand. And our job, we always tell people, our job is to get you ready for college, right? If you're coming to Notre Dame, we assume it's a college prep. You're coming because you want to go to college in 4 years. So as we do that, we need to make sure, and we do strive to make sure that all of our courses are preparing students for college. And that's why we do this regular curriculum review. We just had our reaccreditation. You actually came and spoke to some of the committee members when they were here in the
Yes.
spring.
Yes.
And they went through our curriculum, and they make sure that we're doing what we say we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because in the orientation, when the open house, I would say, when you were presenting it, that something came to my mind. I said it would be nice to see. I remember you mentioned about the AP classes, but like the curriculum perspective, like, if somebody's making a decision, having that comparison would give us a little more inside scoop. Like, okay, if I'm choosing this versus this, is my kid wants to get into this kind of a curriculum, so we can have that conversation.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
So that makes it easier. Coming to the curriculums, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're talking about bigger private schools which has a more cost, that leads to a better curriculum. The curriculum is probably, it's at the same par. Would you say that?
I would like to think so. Yeah.
You would like to think
there's, if you're, let's take AP classes, for instance. AP all have set curriculum, right? So whether you're teaching that course at Notre Dame or you're teaching that course at Choate, there's a curriculum that is out there from College Board that we're expected to meet, because we're all preparing students at either school for the exam at the end of the course.
So that brings me a question. Remember, I was talking to you back of the camera. My younger one, I asked him, because he's making a decision. He asked that, please ask the question to principal that the advanced placement courses, why is that he's in a Shelton public school? He said, why is that the AP classes are more in a Shelton public school than in the private school?
It really comes down to Shelton High, for instance, has many more students than we do. So they have additional staff. So they're able to offer additional courses that as a small school we're somewhat limited on. So we offer 14 AP courses at Notre Dame. Some of them are offered online, but the majority of them are in person. What we have done to accelerate those top level course offerings is we've introduced the IB curriculum that we talked about before. And that IB curriculum targets some of those specific areas, like there's a science course, there's a literature course, there's a history course, there's language courses. We added a world religion course this year. So there's 7 courses that are offered in that IB curriculum to expand those top level offerings that students like your 2 boys would take.
I see. So and just for the viewers, because this program actually goes to India too, so they don't know what advanced placement. So if you want to brief, what is the AP classes?
AP courses are college level courses that are taught at the high school level.
Okay.
So that's the expectation is that if you score high enough on the exam, exams are offered at the end of each course, and it's a 1 to 5 scale on the score. And if you receive a 4 or a 5, the majority of colleges in the U.S. will award you credit for that course. So it's often an introductory college level course that they'll award you 3 credits for. So that's basically their dual. You have the opportunity to earn dual credit. You're going to get your high school credit and also a university credit.
Okay, thank you. And in the open house, I've also heard because I've been to I've been to as many open houses I can too, because I love the way you present.
You could give my presentation then.
I can
so many times.
I have. Remember I asked you the dates. Remember I said that date is not correct,
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, that was from the last." So I enjoy, because I have learned so much from you. I said to Zena that just listening to him is a good way to see how to present and how to sell it. It's a good, and there is a. I remember in one of the orientation open house you did mention about that our kids go to Brown University, Yale, and there is a percentage that you share. And I have seen this in other private schools when we went for an open house and so forth. Is that also a driving? Is that also a selling? I don't know if the word selling is the right word to say, but is that also a word is a thing that you try to market that your school is doing better or our kids are coming out and going to the prestigious university?
Yeah, I think especially if you're investing, if parents are investing a significant amount of money, right? You want a really positive outcome on the other side. And an Ivy League school is not going to be the best fit for every graduate of every school, right? But when we do get students who are accepted into those top universities in the country, we certainly are very proud to share that information with
Okay.
families. And yeah, it because those, the Harvard, the Yale, the Brown, the Vassar, those names are synonymous with success, right? And so when you have students that are accepted into those universities and their programs, we're certainly proud to share
Crowds,
that
right?
news.
And is that the counselor works directly with the universities and they create a case for this individual? Is that how it works? How does that journey starts in the private school that leads to that path?
Yeah, we have a college and career counselor in our guidance office that
Okay.
works specifically on that piece of the student's journey in high school.
Okay.
It can begin really as early as sophomore year, but then during junior year, parents will come in for one-on-one meetings with the students and will begin to map out the process.
Okay.
Setting up a schedule to take the SATs, looking at potential colleges. Naviance is the platform that we use on the college selection process. So getting onto Naviance and getting comfortable with that to do your college research and figuring out what teachers are going to write your letters of recommendation. So that college and career counselor works with the families and then continues that right into senior year. And she also goes and visits colleges, builds relationships with college admissions professionals, and we host colleges that come to visit Notre Dame, so students can learn about those universities right at ND. So it's an overwhelming process, right? College is such a big step, and I'm living it right now with my oldest as we're going through that journey now. So we try to have that specific person that is her sole responsibility, is to work with our families on the college and career piece, because it's such a big step and it's a challenging, overwhelming process in so many ways.
So that start at the 10th grade?
You can start as soon as 10th grade. Junior year, honestly, is more common.
More common. Okay.
More common. But she's available at any point to begin the conversation with
And
families.
you can, so does that conversation also can be like, okay, I'm planning to, my son is interested in this university because of A, B, and C reason, and she can try to create that kind of an environment and what needs to happen from now till that journey to begin, right? Is that how the process works?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
she would look and say, all right, if this is the school you want to go to, they are not SAT optional. So you need a 1400 on your SATs. And
Okay.
these are some of the things that they're going to be looking for on your resume. They're going to be looking for you to have these extracurricular experiences, and all of this. She could help to bring that perspective to the conversation.
You know, when I'm gonna view this with my kid, I'm gonna repeat this again and again. This particular clip. Actually, I'm gonna make this 1 minute clip.
Sorry, Akam.
No, but this is good. So it gives a good perspective. If I have to, the time is coming up. If I have to ask you today, if somebody has to make that decision and they are listening to this podcast, and they want to make a decision, but they're not able to make the decision private versus public, what is the one thing you would say? And what is the second one thing you would say about why Notre Dame would be a good choice financially, as well as curriculum wise, and as a whole, as a package? Maybe we'll end up with that.
Fair enough. Again, I'll go back to what I said before. You need to come and visit the schools, and really, you're going to get that sense both from the parent perspective and also from the student perspective. Let the student spend a day at the school, get a feel, and that's why I feel Notre Dame sort of stands out, because of that warmth and that family environment and that small setting. I feel gives a student a really good advantage throughout their entire high school career to be as successful as they envision themselves to be. And on the specifically to Notre Dame, there's so much going for our high school right now that really enriches the student experience, from the Sacred Heart Partnership and the examples I shared with you earlier to our service program. I'm always so humbled when I see the amount of service that our students do. They recognize the value of trying to make an impact on the lives of those around them. That is a life skill that they walk away with that hopefully will serve them and those around them for decades and decades to come. I look at our new IB program, where we are giving kids a really unique, internationally recognized and respected curriculum that will prepare them to be global citizens. It's really just giving them a challenge, if that's what they want, to be ready to succeed in college and in life. So, and we talked about the beautiful diversity that is Notre Dame. You look at that whole package, and I feel like it gives students and families a really awesome environment for their sons and daughters to succeed and to thrive. And our goal, we just want everybody to be the very best versions of themselves that they can be. And when we provide them with the support from the faculty to our coaching staff, if they're playing a sport, to our club advisors, it's really this whole team effort that goes into making kids be successful in the best version of themselves. So that's what we strive for each and every day.
And I can vouch you on this, because if I have to tell somebody that what is that you find in Notre Dame, my one word is the community. I feel it's a sense, and we have made some good friends from my kid, friendship. So, I want to end this with this one little thing. Today, when I was planning to do this podcast, I was looking. So I'll take a story back where I started with my mom. So when I first came for the fall 2023 for an open house, and we are sitting in that basketball stadium, and I'm looking around, and the banners are in the specific mustard colors, very peculiar color. And I love that color so much. That year, later, we went to India, and I had a hand-painted, it's a flame with a diya. It's like a spiritual. And I had this, and I was planning to give it to you, because that color I took the theme from that color. And I wanted to give it to you, but unfortunately, I could not find it to bring it. I wanted you to bring this to your room, like in the office. It was a beautiful thing. It's the same color. It's a spiritual. It speaks about that, the life is all about beautiful, radiant, and it has some meaning to it. And my mom is coming this next Friday. And tonight, when I'm going to go home, I'm going to call her and to see if we can. It's a hand painted by somebody. So, and the bigger picture to that is, the person who actually did that spiritual flame is a Muslim. So I purposely wanted to give it to you. Think about this: a diversity when you speak. A Muslim person who is trying to work, make the money, having that in a Catholic school in a principal office, this would be the best thing.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
And I'm going to make sure that it makes your way to the office. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you for having on our show.
I enjoyed my time.
Thank you. And this is a principal from Notre Dame, Fairfield, Connecticut. I hope you get to enjoy this show, and I hope you get to learn something out of this, and I hope it will make your decision easier. So thank you once again for subscribing to Lucky D Stories, and I hope you get to enjoy this. Thank you very much.